Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? It is Monday, June 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Do you know what is going on in clown worlds today? Well, we have got a lot of ground to cover, guys. First of all, like, subscribe, and share. Um, Facebook, so what's going on is Bill C-11. They're starting to implement Bill C-11, which means any organization that is not approved by the government is going to be withheld from social media if they are anything remotely resembling a news organization. So, this is one of the things that we saw coming. We expected. This was, part of why we were building other things like the Looking Glass media platform, guys. We're still beta testing some stuff on there, but you can find every stream that we do and some streams that some other folks do as well. Once we launch with a bunch of the new tools and bells and whistles and whatnots, then we will bring more streams on board that platform. But it really didn't make a lot of sense to bring a bunch of streams on, teach them how to use it, and then go and have to teach them all again. So, next to that, guys, Rumble, they have been basically fair. For some reason or another, they're not showing my Friday stream on the page of my channel. It exists, but they're not really showing it. But these are, for the interim, guys, the two platforms that, of course, with whatsupcanada.org, every stream is available live. You can watch it at whatsupcanada.org, but you can't share any of these links anywhere else. So we are really, really dependent on you guys to get the message out for us. We are streaming live tonight on YouTube, oddly enough, X, Instagram, Rumble, Wimkin, of course, and the other two platforms that I mentioned just before that. So, first and foremost on everybody's brain this week, in fact, probably the last 2 weeks, has been, what's going on in Ottawa. And tonight's show is going to be kind of a focus on exactly that, what's going on. And we're going to start with a couple of very basic things. What is meddling? Well, by definition, it is intrusive or unwanted interference. Bureaucratic meddling. Before I pull up the next page, I suppose I should tell you guys why I titled tonight's show. Not only are we going to focus on meddling, but we're going to take a walk through foreign interference as well. And pull this up here. What is foreign interference? In where did I lose it? What is foreign interference? Let's find it here. I probably had that pulled up and then I went and moved it. But it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Interference, any foreign interference into Canadian democracy is intolerable. They're all using the buzzwords. But I think that they just announced that there's going to be a public inquiry. Oh, here it is. What is foreign interference? Foreign interference offense in general is anything or omitting to do any covert or deceptive act for the benefit of a foreign entity, knowing that it would cause harm to Canadian interests. It would apply whether or not the underlying act is a criminal offense. Now, I've been watching this and listening to a lot of the legacy mercenary media mockingbird individuals saying, well, none of this is really there's nothing to prosecute or to go after because there really isn't any kind of criminal offense or criminal activity in what they're doing. Okay. We're going to learn enough tonight to be able to understand that bullshit lie and what they're trying to put over on us. And the last one that we're going to talk about today in depth is what is considered an act of treason. Now, treason refers to the betrayal of one's own country by attempting to overthrow the government through waging war against the state or materially aiding its enemies. Okay, now that we are clear on all three of these definitions, now we're going to look into, oh, and boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen and grannies and gators, all of the links that I'm going to share with you guys tonight, I will make available in the Substack that will go out in the morning. And this is going to be jam packed. I have got so much to cover for you guys here tonight, and it's all revolving around those three subject matters. So we've looked at what is meddling, what is foreign interference, and what is actually treason. Now, we're going to look into non-governmental organizations. And so I started digging into this a few weeks ago, and I've got something interesting to share on this in my research. When I looked into how many non-governmental organizations in Canada, Google tells me that there's 136,452. But when I went to Brave and I looked on Brave, and it'll take me too long to pull that page up, and it's a different browser and all of those things. Brave tells me that there's 170,000 NGOs and nonprofits operating in Canada. And I thought that was interesting. So it was easy on the same page. Who funds NGOs in Canada? Well, the Government of Canada provides direct funding to the non-governmental organizations through Global Affairs Canada. Guys, I hope you follow with me on all of this here tonight, because it's going to get crazy, and we're going to cover so many different things that I feel needs to be added to. Well, looks like we've got some. No, it's showing on Rumble. Sorry, Bonnie, is there a podcast coming up? Oh, it must be from earlier. Sorry, guys, distracted by a comment. Someone said they couldn't see the podcast, but we are live right now. So back to the stories. Non-governmental organizations, 170,000 of them operating in Canada and being funded by our government through Global Affairs Canada. And we're going to look at some of Canadian policy in different ways and from different times over the last decade. But this is a great little 3-minute video, and it's the only video I'm going to play tonight, guys. I'm going to include links to some other ones that are in-depth exposés on some of the stuff that we're going to cover. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of them. But this one here I'm going to play because it kind of sets up a lot of what's going on with these 170,000 NGOs and whatnot. So
3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial, that create laws, enforce them, and interpret them. There is also an administrative branch consisting of civil service, private companies, consultants, unions, and special interest groups that handle administrative duties regardless of who is elected. The United Nations works directly with the administrative branch through government employees and public-private partnerships, bypassing government branches and legislative limits to implement its agenda. In Peterborough, we have an NGO called Sustainable Peterborough. This NGO is partly funded by the city to implement and monitor our progress towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The City of Peterborough also participates in programs administered through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, established in 1937 to be a national voice for local governments. In 1994, the FCM released a municipal primer on the United Nations 1992 Conference on Environment and Development. The primer emphasized the need to think globally and act locally. Today,
think back to the time frame on this, guys. 1994. Who had just left office?
The FCM About Us page says local solutions are the key to tackling national and global challenges. And secondly, it is a national voice for local governments. It appears that the FCM has reordered its priorities and is advocating for international values at the local level. Let's review the FCM programs. FCM programs include the Green Municipal Fund, which has a $1.87 billion budget for sustainable development. A municipal asset management program which requires asset managers to prioritize sustainable development. The Municipalities for Climate Change Program and Equality programs are followed by a long list of international programs. And lastly, the FCM ICLI Partners for Climate Protection Program and the Global Covenant of Mayors. Indeed, it appears the main focus of the FCM is on sustainable development. One can't help but wonder, where are the programs to address issues such as safe drinking water, roads, bridges, and playgrounds? Where are the programs to promote small-town growth, single-family homes and family-owned farms? Where are the programs to address the urban crisis, homelessness, mental health, and drug addiction? These are the programs that local governing bodies should be prioritizing. Instead, we see the Partners for Climate Protection Program partnered with a group called ICLI, an international NGO funded by the UN and formed in 1990 at the UN World Congress. ICLI's founding document suggests that local governments restructure human society, while Canadians wonder why a country as vast as Canada, with an abundance of land and resources, is experiencing a nationwide housing and mental health crisis. It is time to question the benefits of sustainable development and net zero by 2050 programs. It is time to support nationwide civic engagement at the local level. Learn more, show your support, and get involved at WWIII. Together, we can ensure sustainable development policies do not disrupt or restrict our cherished Canadian way of life.
Okay, now I'm going to pop this out of here for a couple of minutes and talk about this and why I'm bringing this up. I've played this video before, guys. This is the work of uh, Maggie Braun, who's doing amazing work against what they're doing as far as for the implementation and the infiltration at the municipal level. She's exposing the coven of mayors and and all of these things, and they're absolutely critically important to the discussion. And 100% the cure for globalism, the 100% safe and effective cure for globalism is localism. There is nothing that is a better antiseptic for globalism than that. And bear with me, guys, because it's gonna over the course of the next few stories, it's going to seem like I'm veering off the subject a little bit, but I am absolutely not. And I promise you, this will all tie up in a bombshell of truth that I really need to make sure that is set up and all of the context is there before I say these things, because these are the kinds of things that make journalists disappear when um, all of the dots come together on what I'm going to be talking about. So um, next up is a video that I'm going to add into the links when I do the Substack tomorrow, so you guys will be able to get this video. But there's a couple of them that I want to highlight, basically because of the the titles, and you guys will get the gist of that from the titles as to what where this is going to fit in down the road. So this one here is Redacted, Clayton and Natalie Morris. These guys do great work. They're watching what's going on in Canada a lot as well. Um, so what they're talking about in this particular case is the United States, and a bombshell report details how the Israel lobby controls the U.S. Congress. That is a very bold statement. A lot of people are wondering what is going on with foreign policy in these nations, that these conflicts that make no sense, and how they're supporting and navigating this, and why they're not de-escalating. Why Ukraine, Russia, uh, Palestine, Israel, all of these things. And we all know that our particular leaders here are muppets. And this report that they address in here, as well as Republican Thomas Massey, and they're talking about this as well, the control of Israel lobbyists over the government of America. And it's really difficult to and so now this guy's, I honestly, I don't care about any other country other than Canada. I have no animosity to any other nation, any other culture, none of that. So to me, this is not, I am not anti anybody or anything except anti corruption and what is tearing Canada apart and who is controlling Canada. Now, here through these uh, just couple of videos that you guys can absolutely go and watch. Tucker Carlson is a long one, where they're what is it? 2 hours, 2 hours long, but the other one is much shorter. But this will kind of set the tone to you. So if it's happening in America, what is going on in Canada? Well, I started to look into this because, and this was kind of the impetus of where I started looking into this a couple of weeks ago, was in um, these other things that I've been looking into. It's the Israeli Allies Caucus, um, which is basically led by Brad Sherman of California, and talking about all of the ways and means that they support Israel. And I was like, okay, well, that is kind of a really doesn't have a lot of impact on Canada, right? That's US. They This is obviously a concern in America. How much control are the lobbyists getting of the America or American foreign policy? But then I came across this article where about what's going on here in Canada in regards to Israel. So um, I have questions, a lot of questions, and it kind of starts with Rodrigo's question here. Hold on, can an organization be non-governmental if the government funds it? Very good question. Very good question, Rodrigo. And I think it's something that if our government is going to have inquiries and inquests and squabble and completely disrupt all of the business of Canada, because they finally realized, or it's come out, that we have foreign meddling, foreign interference, and possibly treason and absolutely corruption going on in Canada. These are some of the things that absolutely should be discussed about in our parliament. But my problem with this is they're only pointing a finger at a select few. They are only running interference to protect their own support. Who is there pulling their strings? We're not looking at all of the meddling. We are not looking at all of the foreign interference. And we are definitely not seeing all of the treason. Now, I'm not alleging treason in any particular situation in this show tonight. All I'm going to be doing is connecting dots to an awful lot of lily pads and providing the documentation, the receipts in the Substack tomorrow, because this conversation, while it is in the Overton window, needs resolution. There must be transparency, because there is no way that anybody can make me believe that there is only a select couple of witting idiots working for foreign entities to their own gain. And this is what we're getting together here to understand. So when I came across this article, because this was relevant to the discussion, and you'll see why here, Relaunch Parliamentary Group seeks to work for undivided Jerusalem as Israel's capital. What does that problem have to do with any Canadian politician that's supposed to have their ass in a seat in Ottawa dealing with the corruption and the division here in Canada? First and foremost, that's a problem. So when I look into this, the Israeli Allies Caucus, well, wait a second. Didn't we just see who that was? That's a U.S. organization. Okay, U.S. lobby group. Okay. So the Israeli Allies Caucus, an umbrella group connected to the Canadian Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus, has a mission to mobilize a grassroots movement of faith-based political advocacy for an undivided Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the state of Israel. What the hell about Canada? Sorry, Leslin. Um, you just got appointed to to be the new leader of this or something or another. Oh, sorry, I'm showing you guys the wrong tab here. I'm sorry, I'm not paying for a subscription to the Hill Times. But yeah, conservative leader or conservative MP Leslie Lewis as is the chair of the Canadian Israel Allies Caucus. Interesting. Let's go see what that is. Well, when you look at the Legistorm, it's pretty much all American. But so you go to Google and you can Google the Canadian Israel Interparliamentary Group, and you'll find that it's called CAIL. So we're going to open that, and it comes up here. This is interesting. Is this not? This is a non-governmental organization. Interesting. Um, I got no beef with Israel, but this is a group that's designed to. Sorry, I guess won't let me highlight that. Further cooperate to further cooperative relations and mutual understanding between parliamentarians of both countries. This is gonna smell okay at the beginning, but wait, there's obviously more. So they don't meet regularly. Looks like every 6 months. They just had an annual general meeting. Last one in November. They had a couple close together there. But okay, interesting. Who's the president? Anthony Housefather. Don't really know much about him myself personally, but they've got a vice pres, Mark Gold, Honorable Mark Gold, a conservative senator, Randall Garrison, an MP, Mr. Marco Mendocino. We know a thing or two about that cat, don't we now? And then you get to members, and this is where I kind of went, whoa, what? What? I had to count them. 106 of these Canadian politicians are members of this NGO organization. Um, and okay, well, and then what is this? What do they do? What is this organization about? And then I found this Constitution as adopted at a meeting of the general members on December 15th, 1981, amended in 1990. So, first, pretty straightforward Canadian Israeli Friendship Group. This is where I'll reread the next couple and let you guys chirp in the comments. So what this kind of brings to mind for you guys. It shall function under the authority of the speakers of the Senate and House of Commons, and with the support of the Parliamentary Association Secretariat, and in affiliation from time to time with selected groups of Israeli parliamentarians. So it functions under our speakers of the Senate and the House of Commons and selected groups of Israeli parliamentarians from time to time. The purpose of the group is to work for a greater friendship and goodwill between parliamentarians of Canada and Israel, and thereby serve to further cooperation between national parliaments of both countries and between both countries. So, if our parliamentarians are cooperating with the Israelis, and the Israelis have selected options to address or work directly with over 100 of our elected officials. Does that not qualify as foreign meddling, foreign interference? I'm not alleging treason. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. I don't think we've got any business having them talk to our government. I don't think our representatives elected to represent us should be dealing with foreign problems in our government. I have a problem with this. To me, it's nothing, it's not having a beef with Israel. It's our own government officials that are doing this in lieu of doing what they should be doing for us. So in my travels and researching this, I was looking for, while I was looking to find out what do they actually do, I found this. The groups do not provide a direct line to the governments of other countries and does not create an avenue for Canadian MPs to dictate policies in the friendship countries. So Canada has no say on what goes on in Israel. The work done by each of these friendship groups varies, but is usually limited to opportunities to learn more about each other's countries, host events that celebrate national days or historic moments, and to have conversations with diplomatic representatives. This is not a new problem, folks. This has been going on for a long time. And one of the things I discovered, this has been kind of behind the scenes, under the carpet discussion for more than close to a decade now. In 2020, there was issues with Canadian MPs in the Canadian Israel Interparliamentary Group, and making allegations that they're all taking part in apartheid. And this goes back to 2018. Here's another article. Um, and, here again, conflicts of interests creating, whether it's in their country or ours, doing sticking their nose where it doesn't belong, or opening the doors for others to stick their noses where it doesn't belong. And this has been going on for a while. They call it solidarity trips. They're squabbling. Israel isn't very happy, and this is going to be a bit of a bombshell a little bit later on here, when we see, we look here in Canada and everybody spews, and this is some of the highlights. And I think why they're protecting each, themselves so much in this, because we have bona fide infiltration in Canada. Klaus has said it himself. The thing he is proudest of most is the infiltration into the cabinets of the countries like Canada, where more than half of the cabinet is represented by young global leaders. Now, anybody that's been following what's been going on in the United Nations for the last decade is aware that the United Nations and Israel have been fighting, and Israel's playing victim. The United Nations seems to be persecuting Israel, and Canada and the U.S. are blindly, in our understanding, supporting, no matter what Israel says or does. They give their token objection, and it happens anyway. And we send massive amounts of ammunition to Israel for them to do the things that they're going to do. Now, again, like I said, this is not something new that's been going on in Canada. This is just new, and how we're now starting to be able to connect the dots, or the lily pads, to the swamp, to each other in the swamp here. And this again will be in the Substack tomorrow, where people have looked at our government and this unusual relationship between Canada and Israel, um, in at the foreign policy level. And so this is a 96-page report that dives right into that. And I'm only going to cover the abstract, because it's kind of still relevant to what's going on now. And this is, again, at the end of the day, this isn't about Israel. This is about meddling and foreign interference in Canada, and how long it is going on. And the grand finale of this episode. So hang on to the end for this one, guys. Gonna pop your brains a little bit. Make sure you give this a like and a subscribe and a share. Make sure you're followed on Rumble. But in 2012, Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird stated that Israel has no better friend than Canada. And indeed, an analysis of the voting records of Canada at the United Nations Commission on Human Rights Human Rights Council, Security Council, and the General Assembly reveal a clear political bias in the voting of the Stephen Harper government towards Israel. Everything in Israel's favor. A bias that isolates Canada from most of the international community. Most of the international community doesn't really agree with Canada on that. Okay. Not only is Canada supportive of Israel, but a review of Canada's political and economic relationship with Israel shows that the current relationship is much closer than that of between previous governments. So Canada's never been more friendly with Israel than they are right now, or were with Stephen Harper at the helm. Maybe there's some things that Harper did do, but this shift can be explained in part by this current government's ideological support for Israel, in part by their aspiration to make economic conservatism central to Canadian foreign policy, and as an aspect of their strategy to appeal to the conservative voter base. So this was, Harper playing politics with Israel to appeal to them, and so he was looking for their support, so giving them stuff. Okay, promising them forever love. Israel gonna like that, won't they? So this support for Israel is further reinforced through the secondary factors of a disinterested Canadian public. We weren't looking. An underlying Orientalist power structure. You mean the one Trudeau Sr. was implementing through his times in office? In his adoration of the basic CCP dictatorship? That Orientalist power structure? Okay. And the influence of the pro-Israeli lobby. So they're trying to build a hybrid here in Canada. Okay, gotcha. Canada's new closeness with Israel is not likely to have any long-lasting implications for Canada's role in the Israel-Palestinian conflict. We don't matter. We really don't matter. No matter how much they want to virtue signal or how many billions they want to steal from you and send over there, we don't matter. However, it has likely decreased Canadian influence in the Middle East and contributed to a broader Canadian-led cooling of relationships with the international community. Now, why did I want to bring this little part up? I don't think that we understand yet still how the United Nations works. Who controls the United Nations? Who's pulling the strings behind the United Nations? I'm going to show you who's pulling the strings behind the United Nations. So here's where I was talking about earlier about how many NGOs are in Canada, and Brave tells me 170,000, funded by our Foreign Affairs Department. So, have you guys ever heard of an Organization of Islamic Coalition? You're going to learn about them tonight. The Organization of Islam, and yes, I'm reading from Wikipedia here on this. You don't have to take this one. I've got a further, more official, link for you guys. You can read up on all of that. But for the sake of expediency in this show tonight, again, it'll all be in the Substack tomorrow morning. Make sure you guys are subscribed to that. By the way, guys, in the show description, wherever you're tuned in from, are the links to the platforms that you need to stay to know if I'm in the gulag or not, because I'll be streaming on those so long as I'm not in the gulag. But what is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation? It's founded in 1969. It's an intergovernmental organization that consists of 57 member states, 48 of which are the Muslim majority. The organization claims to be the collective voice of the Muslim world and works to safeguard and protect the interests of the Muslim world in the spirit of promoting international peace and harmony. And here's the official documentation on that. And this is why Trudeau brings things like halal mortgages to Canada. This is why there is no off ramp to diversity quotas, no matter how many times they've met the quotas. And when you guys read through this, you guys will be absolutely, um, absolutely upset in knowing that. Um, you're not going to be afforded a job because of diversity hires, even if they have enough of the diversity hires. Diversity hires, meaning systemic racism, is the status quo, the situation normal. That is our system within the government of Canada at this point in time. Our system, our political governance, are racist, flat out racist. You'll read through here where they have met the quotas and all the diversity hires, and they are not changing or accommodating or making any difference in them. There is no plan to end discriminatory hiring requirements for quota bound research program. Uh, all the research programs. These are the things. So let's digest a little bit of this tonight. When it comes to the United Nations, that 57 plus 1, the 58, those are the reasons, those are the nations that put Alessandro Tedros as the head of the WHO. Those are the nations that put, who is it, Nigeria in Africa is the head of the Human Rights Commission because they are so good at human rights. Have you seen what they've been doing in Africa for the last decade? France getting kicked out of Africa. America just gave up a $1 billion base in America. And these are the guys that implement policy in the United Nations. This is the voting bloc that decides yay or nay in the United Nations what's going to be stuffed down your throat because every one of our politicians is signed on to these agreements with the United Nations, WHO, human rights, IMF, WEF. There is not a single one of the 338 that wants to look at their own resume when it comes to, by definition, meddling, foreign interference, or treason. The point of asking for the names of these individuals is almost irrelevant. What we need to be looking at is who are the entities, the nation states, the corporations that are involved with these NGOs, lobbyists, public private partnerships. That's where it ticks the scale from meddling, foreign interference, and treason. And somewhere along that way of all of these organizations, almost every single one of our politicians is going to find themselves on the list. And that goes right down to the municipal level. The strong mayor's coven is foreign interference. That is for meddling and quite likely treason in a lot of cases. So what I'm doing here, guys, is letting you know. Everybody wants to know who's the ones pulling the strings behind the meat muppets. Well, it isn't even just Trudeau or Obama or Biden or Obama. It's the United Nations who this coalition voting bloc is pulling the strings of the United Nations. So this is why they have decided to wage war, and you got to know that these guys wage war forever. That's what jihad is, right? And they don't measure war by a clock or by time or months or days or hours. It's till it's over. So we're literally seeing on a global scale the oligarchs of the West thought they were going to make a one world governance play, and all of a sudden they lost control of the situation. That initial loss of control of the situation was Brexit. That was the first collapse of the cabal. And this is where we're going to kind of tail into some good news to tie all of this back into a little bit of a bow. Over the next week, you're going to be hearing a lot of about the hard shift to the far right in Europe. Let's look at this realistically, guy, and it's like that here. These clowns are all so far left. If they even glance right, they're far right. Anything to the right of their glance is far right at this point. The only difference, the only thing that they have left on their scale of measurement is how much fear they're going to project, how many lies they're going to project, and how squealy they're going to get. So at the end of the day, this is where the entire planet is taking a hard turn to the right. Russia and China and basically 70% of the world never wanted to play our reindeer games, but it paid well. And now that they have basically all but bled us dry as from being the parasitical organizations, how did people want to speculate of how did Jeff Bezos get Amazon so big, so strong? Did you know that 3% of every gross sale internationally around the world, uh, Jeff Bezos donates to the IRF, the Islamic Relief Fund, which goes to these guys. So yeah, the collapse, the parasitical collapse of the West, is was just a matter of time. This is why most of these nations, they've just been quite content to allow us to think that we are getting rich, making the bombs, sending the bombs over there, blowing up their country, and in return taking all of the people that we've bombed out of homes over there and bringing them back over here. And the 58 plus one is going, wow, wiping out the West has never been so easy or paid so well. Look at all of these Muppets on strings. You know, and the hypocrisy of these conflicts. Trudeau and Airbus, Macron pressuring Trudeau to remove the sanctions on Russian titanium so that they can keep making airplanes here. It's all theater, guys. It's all designed to extract our wealth, resources, and to basically wipe out enough of us so that they could replace the population here. They're absolutely coming for what we want or what we have. And this is how they're doing it, through policy, procedure, and there's a reason why they call Justin Trudeau king over there in some places. He is their king here in Canada temporarily, while he is the witting idiot of the United Nations. And at the end of the day, the string pullers behind there, the 57 plus 1, the OIC. So this is the trail of the hierarchy, guys. It's literally the mayor, the strong mayor with the powers that he has sworn an oath to the coven that they will grant him all kinds of extra power and resources and support. Okay, where does those extra resources and support come from? We've showed you just a couple of those here today, and make no mistake, guys. When it comes to the parliamentary friendly groups, they come in every persuasion and for every nation, and it's who gives the most gets whichever wheel squeaks the most gets the grease, right? So there's a couple of other ones that I'm just going to highlight here. We're getting down to the last bit. Some other stuff that's going to be adding fuel to the fire of understanding, and again confirming thoughts and suspicions that a lot of people have had for some time. It's interesting that the political party, recognized political party of Palestine, is Hamas, designated terrorist organization here in Canada. So on the charade front of it, on stage for performance is the token resistance in parliaments to sending more aid over there for the destruction and ultimately the support, the humanitarian efforts. And this article, this interview, this lady talks to the United Nations and Hamas being in bed together and siphoning the UN relief that is coming over there. And although I have not had the opportunity to review this entire video yet, it's a pretty credible platform. And Melanie Phillips. I'll read this here, and you guys will be able to look into it more on the Substack when it comes out in the morning. But she's an author and Times consultant, discussing the failure of human rights, the moral corruption, and what's going on over there. And none of these things will be a surprise to anybody. They won't be. These are things that have been long suspected, long alleged, um, and it's starting to come out. Watch, rinse, repeat. It's a pattern with the United Nations, and people need to understand why this is a pattern of behavior from the United Nations. Everywhere the United Nations goes to intervene, it's leaves death, destruction, and chaos, behind it. There is no united in that United Nations. Those blue helmets represent nothing to the rest of the world. They ease our consciences here in the West. We think that by throwing money at them, that it's going to be a problem solver, and we don't have to deal with it. Well, guys, the rest of the world is done with it. They are absolutely done with the level of corruption and interference. They, in the Far East, see us as lost, and they are organizing against primarily America. And this interview is actually a really, really good explanation as to why. We think of warfare and conflict, and beefs that countries have from, tanks and missiles perspective. But some of the things, the control, the chokehold over the world that some of the rest of the world is starting to also have enough of is the dependence on American control of technology. And this is, where deep, dark, dirty forces have taken control of the internet and communications and tech. And this is how they control free speech, narratives, propaganda. They control every software tool, every app. They've got a backdoor into every single person's device. And almost all of this originates out of California. Almost all of this is controlled at some level through Silicon Valley and California. America controls the world's internet through people in Silicon Valley and America. The surveillance state is not just the state of America, it is international, it is global. And the tech wars, those are basically what's on deck. The next level of warfare is bio warfare and AI warfare. And these meat muppets are who we're up against, and we think that we're fighting the good fight and supporting the good fight, in these places like Israel and Gaza and Ukraine versus Russia, and all of these wars that we've had over the last 80 years in different parts of the world. Nah, it's all the same thing. It's all just to keep us running in the same direction so that they know what's going on and they can control what's going on. And the what we've got to watch out now for here in our own nations is our own governments, where it's gotten harder for them to manipulate foreign lands. They're We've become their testing grounds for everything, and we're a naive, unwitting populace that is being controlled by very dark people that have control of the organizations that tend to continue the charade through all of this. So That's kind of I wrapped up a little bit more than I really thought I was going to get through. There was so much that I had lined up there, so I kind of sped through some of it because I didn't think I was going to have the time to get through all of it. So I guess the last thing on the plate, maybe I should find something to find a place to bring that up. Just a sec here. I'll find one more for everybody, and then I'll let you guys all mosey on. I think a lot of people have got a hockey game in mind tonight. Go Canada, go Oilers. All right, I will pull it up. Okay. Facebook won't let me stream there, but that does not mean the show and the information does not go on. So this is tonight's show posted on Facebook, and I wanted everybody to get a glimpse. This is just the fastest way. I didn't have a slideshow pulled up, so I'm posting these onto Facebook just to spite everybody. So we'll give you guys a quick little rundown of some of the stuff that's coming up this week because we've got some good stuff coming up this week. Tomorrow, we're going to dig into more of the what's really going on in the biowarfare space, aka the WHO, led by Mr. Tedros of Meat Muppet of the uh, OIC. Some liberal bribes, and we'll get into some of what's actually going on in Europe. Although the hard shift to the right is real, it is true, it's not exactly true how they're portraying it. So they are lying to you about the context of some of the real reasons why this hard shift to the right. And I'm not saying that what they're telling you, that there's no truth in what they're telling you. They're just not telling you the truth that's actually making the difference in this hard shift to the right. Wednesday. This is what I'm looking forward to, guys. So if you're going to start to notice a bit of a pattern here on What's Up Canada, Wednesday is going to be interview night. Monday and Tuesday is going to be news updates, clown world stuff. And then, so Wednesday, we've got Tom Razzo coming on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a really, really long time. We have so much in common, and we're probably going to cover a different lens at some of the same things that we covered tonight, as well as more. So, and then Thursday, we're going to get into Napoleon complexes, a little bit more of the details on Ukraine versus Russia, Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0, and a global shift of epic proportion. And the global Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0, guys, that's kind of the scary one. Did you guys know that Putin's Navy is now sitting in Cuba with hypersonic missiles that can reach anywhere in America? But I guess Zelensky has one too. And I guess we'll talk about more of that on Thursday. And then Friday, Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks with Bryce. As usual, for some reason or another, uh, it was not easy to find on Rumble this week, but you will find it on What's Up Canada and LGM.news. So that's, yeah, a whole lot of treason going on. You got that right, Daniel, 100%. I did get moved safe and sound. I can't exactly use the term well, but I made it. Here I am. And we're getting back into the swing of things. So that's kind of going to be the routine 3 days a week of news, 1 day of a really in depth interview. We get some amazing guests here, but it's I don't want to be just a guest show. We want to be able to cover more of the news and the things that people need to know moving forward. It's not to say that it's an honor and a privilege to have great guests on, but there's only so much of me to go around. And then Fridays kind of more towards the financial side of things. So hey, Alan and Kim, awesome stuff, guys. So that's kind of a wrap for tonight. Thank you guys very humbly for hanging out, tuning in, catching up. I'd love to know your thoughts on as we move forward on these. I'll be doing follow-ups and updates and digging deeper into this meddling, foreign interference, and treason, because it's only it's only a matter of where I believe all 338 of our Canadian dignitaries fit on that scale. Got some comments over on Wimkin. Guys, that's the alternative. Skip Facebook. Facebook is basically dead to me. I miss you people that are on Facebook that aren't joining us here in the conversation. I hope you guys find your way over here. But Wimkin is a great alternative to that as well. So John Arter says over there, and I can't pull those ones up onto the screen here without it going into the infinity loop. But John Arter says talk is being sold out by your politicians. Same thing as America. Absolutely, 100%. That's exactly the point. And it's the same people pulling the strings in America as it is here in Canada. They have the same objective in mind: the demolition of our societies, and the absolute control over what's left. And Pastor Wes Wolkin says, feeling sorry for Canada. It is crazy the communists are taking over and buying people. I couldn't say it any more succinctly, Pastor. 100% accurate and correct on that as well. So thank you guys for tuning in, whether it was on Instagram or X, Wimkin, Rumble, LGM, or What's Up Canada. I love you all. Stay strong, stay mighty, my fellow hostages. At the end of the day, we got this. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And at the end of the day, God wins. You guys have heard me say that. And I think as we start to measure the victories a little bit differently, we will take a little bit more good cheer and heart, as Neil said in his video the other day. Just know that the cabal is dying on the vine. It's doing that thing where it's running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and it just doesn't know when to just stop flopping around like a dead swamp creature. But we still got work to do, guys. We still got work to do. So yeah, I love you all. Stay Canadian, stay strong. Thank you to those that are tuning in from other parts and lands. We are all in this together, or we end up in the same hell together. So I love you all wherever you're tuning in from, and I will play us out with guys, this company gets a bad rap sometimes, but I can tell you that they have the best products that I can buy anywhere, and I do not have to give BlackRock a single effing dime anymore. And no matter what your objections are, there's somebody on our team that can help you overcome those objections, because we really need to come together and fight this war as they are waging it against us. And if they want to well, that's a whole other conversation, but get plugged into these guys, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.